Good morning, my third grade mathematicians. Welcome back and happy Monday. This is Mrs. Bro. Today we're going to do an error analysis reteach on one of my favorite math properties, the distributive property. Who remembers what the distributive property is used for? Think about that for a second. If you said that the distributive property is when we break one factor into two parts, then multiply each part by the other factor, then add them together, you're right. Let's look at these two pieces of student work, student A and student B. Which student do you agree with? If you said you agreed with student B, you're right. Most of us disagreed with student A. Why do we think student A was incorrect? Again, why do you think student A was incorrect? If you said student A was incorrect because they added inside the parentheses, then multiplied, you were right. Remember, distributive property is where we multiply, then add the two products back together. Let's look at why we think student B was correct. Remember, in distributive property, you can decompose or take apart larger factors. Student B chose to take apart the 9 because student B remembered that 9 is the same as 3 plus 6. So they made two smaller equations using 3 and 6 as their first factor because 3 and 6 make 9. Then they multiplied each smaller factor by the other factor, which was 4. So instead of having to do an array that showed 9 rows of 4, they did 2 arrays that showed 3 rows of 4. 3 times 4 is 12. And then another array showing 6 times 4, which is 24. I'm sorry, student B should have had 24 here. That means that this array, 3 times 4 is 12, and this array, 6 times 4 is 24, is equal to a total of 36. So 9 times 4 equals 36. Student B, except for their small mistake here, which was fixable, is correct because they used the distributive property. Today, in your practice problems and in your exit ticket, you're going to look at distributive property. We use distributive property when we multiply. We can decompose. Decompose means to take apart or make smaller. When we multiply, we can decompose large numbers into two smaller parts. And then we can add. Oh, we don't add yet. We can multiply those smaller parts by the other factor. I almost slipped there. Good thing you caught me. Let's make that correction. When we multiply, we can decompose large numbers into two smaller parts and multiply each part by the other factor. Just like we did here. We decomposed the 9 into 3 and 6. Then we multiplied each of those by the other factor, which was 4. Don't get tricked. Even Miss Bro got tricked a little bit. Then we can add each product together. Remember, the product is the answer you get when you multiply. So 3 times 4 is 12. 6 times 4 is 24. 12 plus 24 is 36. That's distributive property. When we're using distributive property and when we're multiplying with arrays or even finding the area, it's always a good idea to draw a model. When we draw a model, it helps us to see what we need to multiply and what we need to add to find our total. In your practice problems today, you're going to see some models that look just like what student B did, and you might need to fill in the blank. You're also going to see some models that look like number bonds. Let's look at one of those together so we don't get tricked. This is an example of a number bond that can help us when we're looking at distributive property. Let's look closer. We're multiplying 8 times 10. We're going to decompose the number 8, and we're going to think about it as 8 tens. Let me refocus here. There we go. 8 tens. Now you might remember from second grade, these number bonds are part whole. If our whole is 8 tens, we need to know 5 tens and how many tens make 8 tens. Think about that for a second. Did you get it? If you said 5 tens and 3 tens give us 8 tens, you're right. 5 tens plus 3 tens is 8 tens. That means that 5 times 10 plus 3 times 10 is going to equal 8 times 10. 5 times 10 is 50. What's 3 times 10? Did you say 30? You're right. What's 50 plus 30? Did I hear you say 80? Right on. 50 plus 30 is 80. That means that 8 times 10 is 80. You got it. Use this example when you're solving the number bond problems. If you don't have this on your paper, you can write it on line paper, just like I did with the first problem. Again, you're going to turn in your exit ticket for this problem. If you need help with your practice problems, you can visit your teacher during office hours. And remember, you can visit any of our third grade teachers in office hours. I hope to see you visiting mine soon. Again, this is Mrs. Bro. Have a great Monday.